Well, there you are. You're welcome. Charlie Greer podcast again. Today, we're going to be talking about Marshall amps versus Fender amps. Come on, let's see. I personally like both. I've gigged with both. I've road dogged them with both. I mean, basically, a Marshall is just a hot rodded Fender. I don't know if people know this, but Jim Marshall, who started Marshall amps, he used I think it was a 62 basement or something like that. He used a basement, which is and another thing, all Marshall amps are basically bass amps. I mean, granted, it's not, but they use their basements were for bass. But if you crank those, you got a little more distortion than their Fenders are more, especially early Fenders. Well, some of them are really a lot of headroom and clean. You don't get that dirty. And Leo Fender could barely play guitar. He's more like a engineer. And Jim Marshall was a drummer. But yeah, I love guitar amps. I love Marshall amps. So I'm just gonna get right on in it. Marshall amps. My favorite is a like late 70s, early 80s JMP 50-watt like combo 212. I like the Rolla Celestians, the speakers. You know, the one with the knobs on the back there, that one. And if I can't find a 50-watt, I'll have them remove two power tubes, and 100-watt is a 50-watt. Um, but those are getting expensive, man. You used to be able to get those for $500. Even the cool ones with like the gray grill cloth or the blue, grayish blue. And there's people out there that have mine. I've sold them. Unfortunately, I don't own. Right now, I just have like one little Fender amp because I'm not playing. I just, rehearse, just at home. But I shall. So yeah, the Marshalls. Again, when I like in the '90s, people like turn it down. I wouldn't have them mic my guitar amp. I just crank that thing up. It's the Master Volume series. And what I like to do is put everything like I learned this from, it's an ACDC trick. You put everything on 7. Everything. Just put it on 7 and stand back. I mean, the neighbors aren't going to like you. Clubs aren't going to like you. But that was my thing. 7. Just put everything on 7. And man, but those are pricey, and they're vacuum tubes, and again, pulling it in and out of your vehicle, out of your house, into your vehicle, out of your vehicle, into the club, back into those tubes, man. Boom, and they're heavy, it and the upkeep. And then someone's always spilling a beer on it. Or this. So by the time I got to LA and playing in like '98, whatever, I was like, man, I can't be using these posh, expensive old amps. I got to find something that, and I forgot who. It might have been, I don't know. I don't really want to say because I forgot who did, but they're like use valve state, Marshall valve state, like Marshall valve, and what that is, it's a hybrid amp. It's like a solid state power amp and then a preamp tubes, And I remember when they came out in the '90s, and I was like, man, I'll never use. I just thought they sounded thin and the distortion wasn't right. But I was rehearsing in back in LA, you're trying to find any kind of rehearsal room that's cheap because I was rehearsing a lot. And I found this place in the room. All they had was like this 212 valve state. I was like, are you kidding me? I went out to the lot. I go, bro, you got to give me another amp. Like, that's all we got. That's them. And it was like the bi-chorus one, the 8010 or whatever it's called, 212. I forgot how many watts it is, 80 watts maybe. I was shocked at how good it sounded. I was like, somebody's done something to this. And it's not stock. It doesn't sound, and it sounds better than most. So then I found a dude. I was like, I'm like, and you could find these for like $75, $100, 150, like 212 combos. My favorite is the bi-chorus, I think they call it. The Bow State bi-chorus. It's one with the light. It's not black, it's a red lit up. Those sound the best. But you got to get it modded. So I found out, and I forgot who told me that. So unscrew the top, pull out the back, whatever. There's a chip, like the chorus chips. For one, if the chorus chip's in there, it's got a lot of 60 cycle hum. It's just a loud amp. But this guy I found, some old road dog roadie dude, amp guru. It's like, oh no, you have to pull that out, and then it shot the signal straight through, where you weren't going through your reverb and core. You just cut all that out. You're going straight, and it made him sound amazing for a cheap amp. Again, you could for $150. And I gig with those all the time because if somebody stole, if I was playing like Mr. T's Bowl in Highland Park and some people jumped on stage and spilt their beers, I could just have it fit or buy another one. And that's what I did. I went through them. I used every kind of the VS 30 or 230, the one with the 230 watt, even though they're lower wattage. Those, you got to crank them, but man, those sound good. The VS 65, all of them. I've used basically all of them on stage. And people were kind of shocked, like, what are you? But then I had them modded. I had everybody, all the reverb taken out. This, sit the signal, whatever the guru guy did for me. And people thought I was hiding. I put that on as a joke, and I had another amp. So no, that's what I was. And I knew it kind of affected my hipster kind of ways. I didn't give a shit. I mean, I'm headlining. I don't care. I'm using the Bow State. So I use those. Matter of fact, I might even get another one if I can figure out how to mod it myself or get somebody to do it. Go on YouTube and find out. But Marshall, man, any Marshall, if it says Marshall, I don't care what it's going to sound okay. Unless it's been beat to hell and sit in the rain. Even a little practice amp, the battery power, all of them, they're going to sound good. Fender. So Fender amps. I've had just about every Fender you can imagine. Again, they're not as high gain as Marshall. If you crank them, you're going to get thunderous. But so I was around 15, 20 years ago, I stumbled upon, I was in Highland Park, and I forgot the name of the guitar store down on York. This dude, he lived in the store. He was ever cool. They had it was a red knob series Fender. So it was like an either like late 80s, early 90s red knob. They call them the Evil, and it was a Super 210. So it had two 10-inch speakers. I think it was 60 watts, 2 channels, and it had a distortion channel. And I would just crank that thing. It sounded amazing. I think they were like Fender branded Jensen speakers in it or something. I don't know. Man, I gigged a lot with that. And I would Paladinos, man. Like I was playing Paladinos in the Valley. I think it's like North Hollywood or Burbank. And during sound check, the guy was like, "Okay, I'm gonna run you stereo and mic both your speak." And we just got this new PA. I go, "No, bro, do not mic my amp. I'm just gonna crank that thing up, Just it'll be the stage volume's enough. You don't want to." He's like, "Cool, So we sound check. We did like a song or two, and he's like, "Wow, yeah, cool, yeah, that sounded great. I mean, the levels are fine, So some bands, I was playing I was headlining that night, and so I didn't even notice that he had went ahead and stereoed my one mic here, one mic in front of the speaker. I went up in first song, I hear a big pop, and he's all pissed. He's upstairs, like in this little area with the sound. When he's and the sound kind of got different. I finished the gig, and it turned out I blew one of their new PA speakers but I warned him, and then he was blaming me, and then some other guys that were there no, he told it. I was here when he told him. He just went ahead and did it without, and the guy kind of walked away. Okay, and I still got banned. Paladino was like, "Well, you can't play here anymore," or at least under that promoter. I don't even know. I could probably go there. But yeah, it was a popping gig, and I remember we were arguing in the front of the club after it was we're leaving, and my girlfriend at the time was like, "Man, it was all the way." So yeah, and then I was playing Mr. T's Bowl. They did some kind of festival, like a 420 weird, and it was the top. So it was like the Mormons, me, Charlie Greer solo, and then Nebula, or like a stoner rock. So I was going on second to last. I blew that Super 2 like a tube went out. Matter of fact, I broke a string, the same song, because I was kind of, and my amp was all farting. So I stopped. And this band that had played before us, not the Mormons, but some other band, the guys came up and they had an amp. They're like, "Well, we heard you blew a tube." And I was like, "You guys heard?" Yeah. And they went up to, they literally like moved my amp aside, put their amp on there, plugged me in that, and I was using their amp. Totally cool. It's the only time that's ever happened. Like it took like 2 minutes. They'd already went and got there by the time it was awesome. So I had to retube that, I had to bias it, whatever, have a tech, come in and fix it. And it was heavy for like a 210 combo. Man, this thing it was a monster. I think it was made out of pine. I think it actually had like pine. The cabinet was heavy. And I road dogged it. I mean, it was, yeah. So I then, and I got it for a little of nothing. I think I got it for like $200. And I was doing a lot of trading too. I sell guitar at the time. I was selling a lot of guitars and trading and amps and guitars and this. And a guy said, "Hey man, I'll trade you a Marshall half stack, a Mode 4 for your Fender 2 amp." And I was like, "Wait a minute, Mode 4? That's one of these 300 watt. I guess it's a metal amp. It's a hybrid power, solid state power amp, and I think a tube preamp. And it looks metal. It's got metal, whatever, and it's got the biggest cab I've ever seen. This huge thing came with a foot pedal switch." And I was like, "Yeah, bring it up." And it was I was like, "What the hell?" The bottom end, it was just great for what I do. I'm just like, 3-chord wonder kind of thing. Like garage rock and roll. Like I'm not doing any kind of. So I traded him for that Mode 4 half stack. And it drove even on zero, my roommates at the time. Darn it, Dad. And it wasn't a practice amp, and I had my and I had a pretty big room. We had a pretty big apartment, but it was a little bit too much. But I love that Mode 4. And there's certain guys out there that think that's the best Marshall ever made. There's like a couple dudes that like, oh my God. And they are great. I mean, I don't even remember what I might have gotten tired of lugging around that cab was huge. I've never seen a cab, a 412 cab that big, but I can see why. I mean, you need space. That thing was awesome. Again, the bottom end, if you're just, just playing chords, I'm not a shredder, and my band, explain my band. I was a power trio. It was me on guitar and singing, a bass player and a drummer. And I had a rotating door policy about my band members living in LA. I weren't paying them unless we made money at a gig and split it. But they were basically, hey, so if they got another gig, they were gone. And my band was poached a bunch, meaning that other bands would come, bigger bands would show up and look at, "Oh, I love your bass player and drum." And then they just I get it. It sucks when you, in like 4 days, you got to find another bass player. It's some guy you don't even know or like, and he's not even with his bass all high. I've done gigs with people I didn't even but and then the valve states. I've always went back to valve states amps in my last round of gigs, because I quit performing in 2010 or 2011. I was just enough. When I hit 40, I'm 51 now. 40, whatever it was. I was like, how many more gigs I gotta? And my last gig was pretty happening. Mr. T's Bowl. There's like 4 or 5 bands underneath me, and touring band, like bands from Austin, Texas. Hey, and they dug me. And that's one thing. They were like, "Charlie, man, so I'm great to be opening for you." That's that. And I'm thinking, man, these guys, they're kids. They're like late teen, early 20, and here I am, 41, still playing LA clubs. I'm done with this, man. It was embarrassing. It's like one of those moments in life you're like, man, what have I done with my life? I'm still playing the club. No, I ain't gonna do it. I'll switch gear. That's when I started teaching. And I started acting again. I got back, okay, I mean, sober up and kind of lose some weight, get some headshots. But yeah, I think I had it was the dual 30. So you got two 30-watt power amps. And you'd think only 30 watt, it's got two 12s. But if you crank that thing, another thing I learned in some of these, you want to turn the gain down, is push the volume. You don't want it too gainy, because you're going to start getting that thicker crunch. It'll get thin and kind of sizzly if you just turn the gain down and just crank that master volume or the volume in the, whatever it was. And people were calling, hey, what are you doing? And hey, you're not using that amp. So where's the real amp? Like, that's what I'm using. And sometimes I'd have them, some of them don't have speaker extension outs. Some of them do, those valve states. So I might have it on a cab. Pardon me. I know. Right? I had a long night and day. It's not even, it's new. But my dogs get me up at 6 a.m. These old dogs. I got one dog that's 17. He's half blind, deaf, got epilepsy. Poor guy. I love him. He's my ride and die. Then I got my other dog. She's old too. So they get 6 a.m. They get something up at 6 a.m. walking these dogs. My days, I've done more today than most people. But yeah, Marshall, I would like to have both. Why not? And even on stage, you can get an AB box and hook both amps to that, and then have them running together, or run, stereo, whatever you want to do. But I think you need a mixture. I've also had Sun amps. I had a Beta lead. That thing was a monster. That was solid state, and I used that for bass. I actually used that for when I was in La Mata. I just used that to, again, turn on the gain. I would blend the channels. There's 3 inputs. You could blend the channels, and I bought a Fender, old school, like late 60s cab. This thing was huge. It had 2 15s in it, but it had wheels, so you could. And yeah, I used that I toured with that. I mean, I went up and down, California. And I got that from Greg Leon. Greg is an amp guru guy. He's been in all kinds of bands. He was, Google him. Cool dude. And he's the one that told me, like, no, man, get this Sun amp. He hooked me up. And he hooked a bunch of us up. He used to work at it wasn't a pawn shop. It was a music station. It was kind of one of I don't even know. It was on Melrose or Santa Monica. Oh, cool guy, man. Greg was always coolest motherfucker. I'd rather deal with him than, always gave me a good deal. Matter of fact, that Sun amp, I think he gave me 2 for $100. That paid. Now they're worth. And I still have that somewhere. I think in storage back in St. Louis. I think I still have that. I might have a lot of stuff. I don't know. I haven't seen my storage in forever. My mom takes care of that. I don't even know I hope that I forgot about some. Because literally I went through, I've had it all. Solve Tech. My favorite Solve Tech is the MiG 60. I'd actually use the Soft at MiG 60, go into the low input, and has a master volume and a volume, turn that about halfway. And then I used a old school Boss, the orange cheap DS1 distortion pedal. And I used it as a boost. I'd crank everything, and then I'd turn the distortion down. And if you're using that, you want the Japanese one. These new ones that I had, an old Japanese made in Japan. The new ones sound different, man. They ain't. The last one I bought, I was like, what the hell is this? This something. It's good, but not like the old Japanese one. Yeah, so I would use that as like a boost, kind of thicken everything up, kind of get everything. Again, it's a distortion pedal, but it's I wouldn't crank in the distortion. You have like volume and tone. I think I kept the tone right in there, and then the volume cranked, and then the distortion like almost off, just to get that, and I was going to the low input of the MiG 60, because if I used the high, it was just too much and high end, and just the low. I was like, wait a minute, I've never used that. What? See, this is. I might still have that soft. No, I don't. I sold that to a guy like in a death metal band in like Highland. No, in Granada Hills, I think. I used to have a lot of gear. I used to have Dude, it looked like Guitar Center. I had all kinds of. There was one time in my life, again, I'm selling and trading and flipping. All these are not. I had a new roommate come in, and he was kind of. I go, dude, you got 21 guitars in the living room, because I had them. I'd taken out the TV, and they're just lined up, man. And some of them had cases, some of them didn't. You know, some of them were bad, some of them were great, some of them were. And I'd do part casters. I'd take a telly neck, slap it on a Strat, vice versa. Hell, you know, putting new pickups in. But Marshall versus Fender. What are you? What's your choice? Who's gonna battle it? Because there's so many new amps now. And there's this is so much new thing. I mean, people are using these. I don't even know what they're called. Like I don't even know, man. Just there's this new shit that I haven't even used. I don't know. I never got into. I'm old school. I'd rather use a tube amp, whatever that may be. I don't like pedals. I mean, I might use a DS1, but most of the time I just go my guitar, my Les Paul, to the amp, just crank it up. But I'm not, you know, I had, my songs are simple, like garage rock, like punk rock. You know, it's just like 3 chord, 4. It isn't, you know, 2 minutes done, out, maybe 3 minutes gone. You know, just move on to the other one. Ramones, Johnny Thunders, that's the kind of thing. So I get it. There's different people need, you know, you want some high glossy, clean channel, you know, with the chorus, and then you need a heavy. But there's new amp companies that I think, like Friedman amps, sound amazing. I love those amps. I'm gonna get one eventually. I almost bought one before and I almost bought a couple Engels right before I left. Engel amps, ENGL. I think they're German. But right before I left LA, I was gonna get a good deal. I forgot the you know version of this amp, but it was literally like a 50 watt. It had 1 to 12 and 50 watt tube, and he had 2 of them, and he was going to sell them to me for like a little bit, and they had row cases. But I knew I had to leave gear behind, man. I tried to flip my Mercedes and get like a truck or a van or SUV to just like put more. I couldn't. We were in the pandemic, and I left behind 2 half stacks and 2 keyboards and all my furniture, everything, you know, clothes. I just wanted to get out of California. And a lot of this stuff from wheeling and dealing, I got for free anyway. So I didn't have any money in a lot of stuff. I'd already made mine. But those Engels, I wanted. But I think you got to buy them both. And I think he was going to give them to me for like cheap. Like both of them for like $700 or both for 8 or both for 6. It was crazy. I should have bought them. I almost did. But yeah, Engel, Friedman, and a lot of these, some of these have been longer, you know, like diesel amps, Black Star, and there's a lot, but it all goes back to Marshall and Fender. Again, I don't think you can beat a good Marshall or a Fender, because you can always Fenders are great for like pedal platforms. You can put pedals in front of them. You can't really go wrong. I've had solid state Marshalls and solid state Fenders. I've had expensive one, vintage, all this stuff. And there is there is a difference. You know, some of those older like blackface Fenders, you just want to crank, you know. And I was at, I forgot what they called that. It was a cartage company. My bass player at the time worked at this cartage company where they store rock star stuff, and then, you know, the roadie will show up, unload the stuff, take it to whatever. And I went there to see my bass player at the time, and there's like a sound room. And I went in, and they had the guy, the tech that worked there, had this old Fender. I forgot, maybe a twin, you know. So I closed the door. It's kind of soundproof. And I literally just did like a Johnny Thunders. I just went, just cranked everything, reverb and all. Just a 10. And I started, And they were literally like, even though it's like, what are you doing, dude? Like came in like, oh, that's it. Well, I'm just, you told me to come in here and check it out. I mean, but what I forgot to do was I just turned it off. I left it cranked, like all the. So when the guitar tech came the next day, he knew somebody had, and I might have, that burns up your tubes or whatever I did. I mean, I didn't do anything bad, but he knew. He was pissed. He wanted to know who, and they told him. And he's like, "Well, Charlie, it's all good. Just don't do it again." I should have known better. I should have I just didn't. I'm out of there. That's what I'd like to do. That's what I like to do. Just crank it up. Like if I have a certain Marshall tube, just everything on 7. But that you gotta. It's gonna get loud. You can't do that in your house. Your house will be shaking, man. You'll be feeling it like you just, So what is your preference? What are you? There's all kinds. Again, it's people's flavor. It's what they. That's what the beauty of it. Like people like, oh, I need this and that. Okay, cool. I get it. Like I have my practice amp now has all these effects, and it's a Fender, and it. Again, I wouldn't play live with this, but sometimes when I'm just jamming, rehearsing, practicing, it's cool to have all these modulations and then flanger. But I don't do that. Again, I haven't played live in damn man, over 10 years. I'm about to start doing a one-man show, like my own. And after you start doing that, people seeing you playing, I'm sure I can put together another 3-piece. But I don't want to deal with a band. I'd rather it's me. It's hard enough dealing with, so it's like, hey, just show up and do your one-man band. Yeah, so we shall see. We shall see. Because since I quit playing live, man, it messes with your social life, man. You think you got all these friends and all the now they're acquainted. They yeah. Your house is not. I didn't even get it. I was like, what? I'm not playing live. I'm not. Your social life. It affects your social life. It's sad. It's kind of fake too. Like even with my dating, like where all these girls are like, I'm not playing live. See, that's why they like me. If I'm just me, they don't just like me. They like. And I didn't get it. I was like, what? But yeah, what do you have? Comment below. I'm sure nobody's watching. Nobody watches my podcast. I just started it 2 months ago, and it's rough. And again, look at my window back, half fallen. Hey, yeah, I actually could cover that because I have blinds. I take them off the whole thing so I can get light in here. This is a dark little apartment, but I love it. I love my apartment. So what do you think? What is it? Marshall, Fender, both? Are you using some kind of new, I forgot what they call those things, like programmable, whatever the hell. It looks like a toaster oven to me. It looks like some kind of science. I'm sure they sound good. And if I had one, maybe I'd like it, I don't want to be dealing with how you can program. I don't want to, that takes the fun. It sucks your creativity, man. The more because I used to have like a studio, Pro Tools, my living room, and you're learning all that shit. Next thing you sit down, you can't write because all you're thinking about is OSC and latency and this, that, But I needed, an engineer could, but I don't. I'd rather just stick with. That's just me. Humbly, that's just my humble opinion. I can't. I'm a one-track mind. It's like rock and roll, rock. I just need to go straight into the amp, bam, go. Again, my music isn't that. It's simple. So what do you think? Marshall, Fender, both, PV, perhaps? All of the above? You want them. Look, I love y'all. Be blessed. And I'll see you tomorrow. Cheers.